Order. Rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so make the roll call show that all members are present. There are no citizen comments tonight. We'll start with board member committee reports, starting with Chad.
I have nothing. Thanks.
Jim?
Had a policy meeting. Howard can clue us in. We didn't really make any changes in any of the policies. They were all pretty much up to date.
Deb?
I'm just agenda planning.
Sue?
We'll see is getting organized again. So this coming Friday, there'll be a general meeting and the legislative committee is meeting again. But we're on Zoom, so it'll be interesting to see a general meeting.
I had
I lost the audio.
Okay, can you hear us now? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I had the policy. You guys are welcome to make it be short.
all right, and Eric Minks.
Nothing to report.
All right, there's no student council report.
I do want to let the board know that I am meeting with our new school board representative tomorrow. And the young man's name is Jacob Gruba. And I will get to learn a lot about him, and I'll be walking him through the MSBA. Some of the finer points of basically what is the role and responsibility of a board member, what's the role and responsibility of a superintendent and our team, and then just discuss some best practices as a student school board member. So he seems like a fine young man, and he'll be a great addition to our team.
All right, superintendent report.
I shared in the Tiger notes today, some thoughts. I mean, we're very pleased with how the year has started. It certainly could have started worse. We are up and rolling. It does seem in a lot of ways like a typical school year, but there are several issues that we are troubleshooting and working through. I referenced a few of those in my notes, but I'll just reiterate the drop-off pickup at the primary and the intermediate is something that we will need to continually improve on. I'm pleased that today we got the pickup down to 22 minutes. I think last year Sarah indicated that a typical date was about 15 minutes or so. So we're going to keep trying to push underneath 20, but that does cause some anxiety and stress. We are working through lots of technology kinds of issues to start the year, different hardware, different software solutions. So really trying to support our teaching staff to work that through. Our nursing staff is working tirelessly. I'm pleased to share that we don't have any students to date in school that has a confirmed COVID. So that's good, but just like every place, we're anticipating that will happen. That's real life. Trying to keep track of the case numbers in the county, because that impacts our model that we can work within. I believe I'm pretty confident that we'll be in the same model for at least the near future. You will see that numbers in Mille Lacs County will be going up to be similar to what we've seen in Sherburne County, but that won't impact our model because we've been in this model in the second one now for quite a while. I'm pleased to have Jessica here. She doesn't attend all meetings, but she's here as getting her hours to be a superintendent. And because she's here, maybe I would welcome you to just take a minute. of my time, and I'm really good at putting you on the spot. But, you know, just share some of your perspectives from the director of teaching and learning. I know that you're working with lots of segments of our teaching.
Yeah, a couple of highlights that things that have gone really well is grade levels and content area collaboration in terms of identifying the priority items or most essential things that we make sure students learn. Huge amounts of collaboration with that, so I'm excited. I would say our learning curve, we are navigating with grace, and there are some bumps, and we are being kind to one another along the way, and yeah, it's going well. There are things we are overcoming together.
You know, one of the things is really now we're all going through, and this is all stakeholders, our team members and parents and students. It's somewhat of an exercise in us all handling our own personal stress and anxiety and adversity, because and we knew going into this that it was going to be hard. It wasn't going to be easy. I mean, we would have been foolish to think that everything was just going to go perfectly. My goodness, in a typical year with, you know, doing nothing different, there's always stress with getting the year off started. And now people are being asked to do things that they've never done before, instruct in a way that they've never instructed before, use technologies they've never utilized before. But we're all in together, so we just need to stay strong. But all in all, big picture, I think we should be pleased.
Yeah, great collaboration. Strong work.
Good. All right. Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Sue, seconded by Howard. Is there any discussion? We'll vote by roll call tonight, starting with Chad.
Yes.
Deb?
Yeah.
Sue?
Yes.
Eric Strandberg, yes. Jim?
Yes.
Howard?
Yeah.
Eric Minks?
Yes.
All right, motion carried. Motion to discuss and act on previous board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Howard, seconded by Chad. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll start, vote by roll call, starting with Deb.
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Eric Strandberg, yes. Jim?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Eric Minks?
Yes.
Chad?
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Howard, by Jim, seconded by Sue. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call, starting with Sue.
Yes.
Eric Strandberg, yes. Jim?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Eric Minks?
Yes.
Chad?
Yep.
That's it. Sorry. And Deb?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. All right, moving on to the information, refunding bond. We have Jody here to give our presentation.
Yep, we have Jody from Ellers here, and she's going to share some thoughts. Jody, is there anything that you want me to put up on the screen?
You can open the pre-sale report if you want. I'll make a few overall comments and then we can just, walk through that a little bit. So be pretty brief, but if people have questions, I'll certainly respond to those too.
Okay.
And Michelle is there somewhere, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, Michelle is here.
Feel free to chime in if you want to too, Michelle, but just overall as your financial advisor, we're always monitoring your debt and trying to take advantage of any opportunities to refinance or refund that debt, as it's called in the public finance world. So recently we've refunded bonds for you, and most of you are aware of that. This is a certificates of participation issue that is an opportunity right now for refinancing. So when these certificates of participation were issued, it was really a tool for doing a lease purchase financing for a project that you had at North Elementary School back in 2010. So this financed the addition, renovations, some ADA compliance, so a number of different components of that project. So the certificates, when we sold them, were set up with a call date of February 1st of 2021. So you are able to refinance those and close within 90 days of that call date. So now is the time to move forward with the refinancing. This transaction was discussed at the Finance Committee on September 1st, and they thought it made sense to move forward with it. It's the opportunity to pass on some savings to your taxpayers. You're not able to keep the savings for your budget, but I'm sure the taxpayers will welcome a little bit less in taxes. So the report is set up so that the first, let's say 4 pages provide some background information. And then if you'll turn to page 5 of that report, Ben, that gives the schedule that we have set up for this refinancing. So tonight is the pre-sale report. And again, the Finance Committee did talk about this on September 1st. So that was really the first step in the process. We will prepare an official statement just like we do for bond issues. We'll have a conference with the rating agency, just like we do for bond issues, and get that official statement sent out. And then we'll take competitive bids and present those to you at your meeting on October 20th. We're scheduled then to close on the refinancing November 12th, which is within that 90-day window of the February 1st call date. And then on February 1st, the certificates would be called. So the financial schedules are attached starting on page 6. And page 6 is our sources and uses schedule, and that just makes sure that we have the certificates sized to be able to call the bonds and pay for costs of issuance, just like you would have as part of a refinancing of a home mortgage. Page 7 shows your existing debt service schedule for the callable maturities. So you'll see that there are coupon rates of 4.25% to 4.45% with an overall average coupon of about 4.45%. The next page then, page 8, shows you what we expect those coupon rates to be now based upon existing market conditions. And you can see that we're in a very low interest rate environment right now. We're expecting coupon rates from 0.65% to 1.2%. An overall true interest cost rate with everything, all of cost of issuance and everything figured in of about 1.38%. And then finally on page 9, this is the page that shows you the savings. So this is net of all costs, and we're expecting savings of just over $60,000. So, roughly $12,000 to $15,000 each year in the remaining years that the debt is outstanding. So we're not changing the schedule, the debt schedule at all. The timing will be the same for the payments, just taking advantage of lower interest rates that are available right now in the market. Anything else, Michelle, that you want to add or any questions? There's no formal action that's needed to proceed with the refunding like there is for a bond issue. It's not necessary for certificates of participation. So this is really an informational report, and then we would be back to you at your October 20th meeting with the sale results.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Any questions for Jody?
Just makes sense to do. I'm kind of sad that our main bond isn't up for
Yeah.
Not quite yet. Yes, exactly. So
serious money.
Well, thank you, Jody. Enjoy your evening.
thank you. Great to see you guys, and have a great rest of your meeting.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, moving on to the middle school updates.
I am pleased to be able to share our new principal, Charlie Backer. Charlie, are you there with us?
I am, Ben. Can you hear me at the moment?
I can hear you. I'm going to go ahead and get your presentation, and I'm going to put it up here on the screen, okay?
Sounds good. I'm just in the middle of a restart. My audio wasn't working, so I'm on my phone. So I'm restarting my computer at the moment, and should be up and running here in a second on my computer screen here too. So by the time you get that up there, I should be ready.
And what I'll do is I'll put your presentation on our screen here. Let's see, stop casting.
So he's got something from where? Oh,
All right. Just give me 1 second here. If that's up, and if not, I can always present from my phone, but I know that not ideal. Sorry about that.
You're all right, Charlie. Why don't you start off, Charlie, and just tell everybody a little bit about yourself before you jump into your presentation.
Sounds good. Well, first of all, I really am excited to be here and excited to meet all of you, even virtually, at the moment. And a little bit about myself. I'm in my 21st year in education, and really just thrilled with my start here at Princeton. The community has been phenomenal. I started my career, excuse me, started my career in the Rockford School District, where I taught 5 years, taught another 8 years after that at St. Michael Albertville, and then spent 2 years in the Sartell School District as an assistant principal at their high school, and then another 5 years at back at St. Michael Albertville at Middle School East as an assistant principal there. And so basically that's kind of a combination of my background. I grew up in Rockford, Minnesota, and was my parents were both educators, and so I've been around teaching and coaching my whole life, and just really love the community vibe. This really a lot of small town feel with really big town opportunities with the kids, and just have been really thrilled with that so far.
All right, Charlie, we're ready to go. I got your presentation. I'm gonna roll through it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Can you all see and hear me now?
Well, we can see the presentation. We can hear you. I'm having a little
Perfect.
trouble figuring out how to cast your face up on the screen, but
We can see it, Ben.
okay.
Yeah, we
No
can see him.
problem. All right. Well, just a little bit about, we're continuing our continuous improvement plan here at the middle school, and really just looking at, as we go forward. And Ben, if you want to skip ahead to the next slide, we thought we'd start with just a little information. Right now we have 754 students enrolled, and as you can see, about 145 of those, just a shade under 20%, where about 19% of those are in distance learning. You can see the day A and day B counts right now. They're right around 100 students for each, our 8th grade being the largest. And what's really interesting that is kind of the surreal part of it is the school is, as far as the day-to-day, really feels very, very quiet in terms of the numbers in there, but we're very, very full when it comes to that capacity, as we're sticking to those 50% and 6-foot social distancing standards. Most of our classrooms fit 14 students comfortably. We can, if needed, get a 15th student in most of those, but we're trying not to push those limits and making it as comfortable for teachers to walk the classroom and those kinds of things. So it's kind of an empty feeling, but we're very, very full, and it's difficult to even make a schedule change at this point, because we've really gotten ourselves to a point where we're comfortable. We're within all the guidelines and everything, but it's been a really, really great job by our staff. And if you skip ahead, the next thing you'll see is a picture of what a classroom looks like right now. And this is, we've got 2 desks butted together so that students can put their bags on their desks next to them, and it gives them a little space to operate. But you can see the spacing in the classroom is, just a different feel. And the having the 2 desks together also saves a storage issue. We were looking at having to find space for 450 desks if we moved them all out of there. And by having them stay in there, it really helps with student comfort. And it also helps us if we go back to, if the levels get such that we're back in school, it's kind of nice too. We don't have to move 450 desks back in. So just a nice efficiency job by our custodians in setting that up, and guiding our teachers in setting up their classrooms as well. The focus area for our student learning teams, as far as our big rocks are concerned, we have 3 things that we're really focused on with curriculum. We have been talking a lot about those essentials, where we really look at teaching fewer things in a deeper and more meaningful way. And the Princeton paradigm, which is on the next slide, is something that will look familiar to people, but with the authentic literacy focus, read, write, and speak in all subject areas, really trying to prioritize those essential skills. And with the class configuration and less time in person, we're really wanting to make sure that we're not getting tempted to try to cover everything at a surface level, but to really focus on what students need in their lives and to dig deeper in those skills. And again, a slide that kind of shows in a reminder of that Princeton paradigm there, where we're really looking at the focus of student-friendly language, so students know where we're going with the learning, and having a success criteria for students, and then also with the culture and conditions, living at analysis, which is something that our staff has done a nice job with, really paring that down so we prioritize. The student learning plan this year, they were instrumental in helping us to really look at our priorities in how we best optimize our time in school and then optimize our time at home. And we looked at really a great success story jumping last year into distance learning very quickly, and to be able to do that in short amount of time, but also understanding that now that we have a model that we really want to be committed to and to making it the best that we possibly can, longer instruction time with students was a focus. So we've gone to a block schedule where our classes are 90 minutes per class. So we have fewer classes to keep track of in the day, which is very important, we thought, for not just in school, but also when they're at home, if they don't have 7 classes to keep track of in the day, but rather 3 academic and 1 advisory period. It also creates fewer transitions during the day, which is fewer opportunities for students to commingle and have some of those tougher spots where it's maybe a little more tempting not to be socially distanced, and still providing that interaction time that's so important for students. So the conclusion that we've really come down to and really made a big part of this is prioritizing safety while optimizing learning, and that team's done a fantastic job. The standards-based grading is something that we're in the 2nd year of that. We implemented that last year, and right now we're refining that and then also looking at making it work within our platforms. And that's been something that we've been very fortunate to have the two, I think Skyward and Schoology for our staff, we're looking at having them interface a little bit better on the grading part so that we can refine that. And we've been very fortunate. Jessica Town Gunderson and Ann Cameron have been just tremendously supportive in making a lot of headway in that. So we feel like that's coming to a place where it'll be good, but it's certainly a learning curve for our staff, and they have been phenomenal with jumping in and making sure that those things are going smoothly to support the learning management system as well as our Skyward. If you go to the next one of the things, yeah.
I skipped this. Was there anything you wanted to mention about this picture? Did you want to reference this outdoor classroom, or I'm guessing you guys are utilizing that?
Yes. So we put this in here. This is something that Eric Torkelson and Mike Sire have done a phenomenal job. They used a grant to put an outdoor classroom, and we have that beautiful campus right next to the river. And you can see the process. They came in and really rolled up their sleeves. You can see the progress that they made on it. And we've had students using that space. And really, when you walk in and out of the pods on a nice day, we're actually not seeing a lot of students in those classrooms. We're seeing them out here in this particular spot. We're also seeing them take walks and do movement breaks and just spread out on the lawn, having a lesson where they're learning and getting some outdoor time. It gets them out of their masks a little bit. That has been fun. And most importantly, you get to see their smiles and you get to see it look a little bit more familiar, like middle schoolers, where they're laughing and enjoying each other. So the next few slides, there's not anything new. We didn't have data from last year due to COVID. So just seeing where the reading trends right now, we had about 64% proficiency with reading, and we're looking at, and we can kind of skip ahead to the next one, where it kind of shows our standing in the last measure that we have versus the state, coming in higher than the state average in reading. Our next one shows math, where we're right around 54%. And if you skip to the next slide there, again, coming in higher than the state average, and then science as well right here. So what we're looking at right now, we don't have that new data from last year, but we are already scheduled to do our STAR assessments at the end of September and the beginning of October, so we can get one more objective measure as we start looking at. I think the next step in what we're doing on our schedule is to really step up the interventions and make sure that our MTSS period that we have built in for students where they can get some of those interventions are backed by current data as well. The climate and culture group has done a great job of looking at, okay, we've got this schedule that we've built now, and now how do we create the atmosphere around it and try to create a sense of normalcy for the students, because they're coming in and that first day or two was really kind of surprising for them. I think they were surprised how much the desks were spread out in classes and those kinds of things. So we still are looking at how do we still let students be students, let kids be kids. And so providing that safe, respectful, welcoming environment for all families. We have a big part of our Wednesday is that social emotional learning. And we have our advisory periods and then some extended time where they get support on Wednesdays for areas that they need help. And then, of course, building relationships. We want to increase student voice this year and enhance diversity education and really broaden our lens in terms of how we see issues to prepare students for the world. For a world out there that's changing and for a world that has been confusing over the last several months of unrest. And so just things that we want to be making sure that we're exposing students to a lot of different points of view. And again, it's that focus of teaching students how to think, not what to think. And that's very exciting for us. All right, so the next one here.
Should I go to the next slide?
Yeah, go ahead. Here's kind of a picture of, again, when we mentioned the students being outside and getting a chance to spread out, the picture on the right here shows students who are, when they're entering the building, they mask up. These are students coming off the bus, so they're already masked coming off the bus. I have been so impressed. We have not had an issue with students' behavior and masks, and families have been super supportive. I know that it's tough for a student to wear those, and they've just done a phenomenal job of that, and the socially distancing. We obviously all need reminders in that, but they're doing just a great job with that. The next big rock that we look at here is the multi-tiered system of support. System of support. It's a little tongue twister for me there. This year we're really looking at adapting our Tiger tune-up, which is an intervention for students where they have an opportunity to be retaught or to get extra help, and for some students to receive enrichment if they're getting things. And we're working on focusing a smooth transition so they get that time, particularly on Wednesdays, to stay caught up. So if they're getting behind, we have ways to enrich, and then ways to challenge students who need it. We have grade and team level meetings in place, and then we're also refining our Tier 2 academic and behavior supports and referrals, and making sure that we have interventions on all places on the diamond. So we have a new PIT team, positive intervention team, that also works on student support and really taking the next step with our MTSS this year. And we have an advisory period that we're currently using most of our TA time, our teacher advisory time, but we are set to refine this so that the MTSS period is really student need driven, and that kicks in high gear in October when we have a little more data and a little more of a feel for how students are doing, and using that current data. You can go ahead and head to the next slide there. Again, a picture of our building that'll look familiar to everybody, and just the custodians doing a great job of keeping it looking great. Our current custodial crew has really stepped up, and they've also partnered with our teaching staff, who's also doing some basic cleaning in between classes and doing some of those things to not only keep the building nice, but also to keep it safe. And you can go ahead and skip to the next slide there. And our operations for our other big rock right now, it's really centered, and this has been such a big focus. We're so fortunate to have just great guidance by our nursing staff, and just the amount of work they've done to keep keep us up to speed on things, and really creating that culture of safety. We're again at 50% capacity with the hybrid model. so optimizing the cleaning and sanitation practices in the building is something that that we've already got those routines built in between classes. And then our Wednesday, we have some extended time for our custodians to do a deep clean before we switch cohorts and go to group B attending. And still able to prioritize student learning opportunities while maintaining that safety and sanitation. And then, of course, supporting the social and emotional needs of the students. This is where I see such a big benefit to the hybrid system where, you know, we worry about kids with interaction, you worry about isolation, and to see them interacting is just huge. So that's been a big part of what we've enjoyed a lot about the fall so far. And again, some of the processes and facilities, I think that 21st century learning we've just really hit the gas on that when it comes to all the things that our staff are using to adapt to the new normal that we have, the technological savvy of our staff. I even think of, I could barely use a Zoom call before this whole thing happened. And of course, tonight I demonstrate it by not being able to get my sound to work. So I don't know if I can claim a success story exactly here, but it's been really great to see in both staff and students how readily they've taken to that. And then you can see the safety, security, and continuous improvement. The last slide there was a look at what a socially distanced lunchroom looks like. And it's very quiet. We have this area has about 250 kids in it in the mornings on a typical year. And the capacity now is 80. And we look at the capacity of 80 and really it's tough to get 60 in there at 6 feet. And our students have done a great job. We've had the tables are about 8 feet. And so the students sit about 6 feet very naturally. The interactions there, because it's so quiet in there, they can hear each other talk. So it hasn't been really it hasn't stopped them from being able to socialize, but a definite difference. And you can kind of see what it looks like there in that last slide. So overall, I think the things that we're looking to get on board with next is just taking all that we have done to try to sort things out in this beginning part of the year. And we're seeing it work. This is the second day where we've seen both the in school and at home happening simultaneously. We've worked up to that, and we're still working out, you know, some technological challenges that happen from time to time. But I look forward to now being able to kind of live in the plans that we've created and just to get a feel for what's working, and then to be able to readily adjust for things that aren't working, which our staff's been very flexible with. So with that, questions people have or anything that I could help clarify, or anything I went over that didn't make sense?
What we got anybody from the that's at home that has a question? Jim, you're muted. Jim, I can't hear you.
Ben, are you able to unmute him as a leader?
I can try. Yeah, I don't have the ability to unmute him. It says his phone is, you're on your iPhone, Jim.
Okay, unmute. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
We hear you.
Okay, good.
You got a question for Charlie?
Just a real quick one. If a student has an individual question, how does the teacher interact with that student? I mean, can the teacher get within a certain amount of space, or how does that work?
Great question. And the answer, a couple of adjustments we've made, and one is getting comfortable with talking with each other from afar, which isn't always going to happen. The thing that does help us is we're really centered on trying to limit close contacts, which would be defined as, 6 feet or closer for a duration of 15 minutes or longer. So there is certainly that leeway for a teacher to to come around to a student and to be closer and not to hover there for long. We don't want to obviously stay in one place for too long, but they are able to do that. And then I think one of the things that I've seen today, this afternoon, actually, it was a really good example where a teacher had the door open and the student was in the hallway and they just stepped out for a question. I think it looked like a situation where the student maybe didn't want to ask the question in front of the class, and the teacher did a nice job of just stepping out in the hall, getting the question addressed. So I think just kind of adjusting to that. And I think the biggest thing is the kids are saying it too. It's like, it just seems weird when we say, hey, step back a little bit, guys. They're like, just seems weird. And so they're noticing, we're noticing, but I think we're all in it together. And that I think makes the biggest difference, is that we kind of laugh at it too, which is kind of fun.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you.
Anyone else from in here? Okay. Thanks, Charlie. Everyone needs to know Charlie's doing a great job. I mean, can you imagine being your first head principalship, jumping in to this kind of environment? Charlie's a great team member, a great addition to our administrative team. He's got a great team of middle school teachers and support staff. So very pleased. So
Yeah,
thanks,
as a
Charlie.
parent of a middle schooler, I'm very pleased with your communication that you've been sending out. It's been very helpful.
Oh, appreciate that. Appreciate that. And we always want to know when it can be better too. Just appreciate all the feedback we're getting.
And Charlie, now you're in a previous life, you were like an AP English teacher.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
and staff knows that they do really well at hawking my grammar and kind of letting me know if I've missed one or two, because I'm sure they've been hit by the red pen before. So it's kind of a nice little bit of justice I get.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Charlie.
You bet. Thanks, everybody.
You're fine if you want to sign off, or you can stay on. It's up to you, but I'm sure you got plenty to do.
Sure, I think I'm going to catch my daughter's cross country race here, so I appreciate it.
Okay. Take care, buddy.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to the high school update.
Hey, Barb, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, it's going to take me here a second to get the high school presentation up. We'll get that up on the screen and then we will get rolling. Okay. Okay, for those of you on Zoom world, can you see the Princeton High School presentation?
Yep, sure can. Thanks.
All right, very good. Barb, you have the floor. It looks like you're still hard at it at the high school. Good to see you.
Well, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me. Should I get started, Ben?
Yep, go ahead.
I hope everybody is doing well, and I thank you. Superintendent Barton asked last week what I needed, and I said lower expectations for the annual board report, and he said okay. So Charlie and I thank you all for a little leniency. Charlie and I have worked together on these reports. I commend Charlie. He's a great addition. We've communicated frequently, and he did a great job on that report, and I appreciate working with him. So this report, there's a few things it's different than what I've done for you in the past. I didn't put a lot of the data or any of the data in because it really hasn't changed around the testing data. So you won't see that in here, but we have previous reports. If you have any interest in that, I can easily share that with you again. So the take action slide, that's the student theme for 1920. That's our third year of students creating their theme for the year. And we pull things together around that theme. Some of our presentations work around that theme. Some of their activities throughout the year, and it's student chosen. So that was their 2020, and I'll be working with Jacob Gruba, and we'll get our students together and select our theme for this year. Typically, we do that before school started, but I think you've heard that things are different. So our operations team is our next slide, and I had a little trouble with this. This slide is really just maybe a placeholder. So along the lines of the district structure, we have done the same at the high school, and it's really working very well. The operations team is leaders from all the other groups, like the student learning team, the MTSS team, and the climate and culture team. So those leaders are from our site team and our operations team. So we meet as admin and operations, and those leaders are leading the other Big Rock teams. And that has served us well. The teacher leaders are, last year were Larissa Bell, Jade Joseph, Katie Lehman. So those folks led Big Rock teams, and then we would meet to discuss, well, how are we moving the plan forward? And they were also the QComp or ATPPS site team with me as well. So that alignment that the district started, I think last year was sort of the first full year of that. That really is working well at the high school. The student learning team, from here on these slides, we were really on top of it last year with our improvement plan and even this report. This slide was not created this fall or this summer. This slide was created, I think we started this report last November, and then we kept building on it. So the last revision of this part of the report was done prior to emergency distance learning, so in late February. And I wanted to honor those slides, even though they weren't necessarily adjusted, cleaned up, finalized for you. I wanted to honor the work that those teams had done. So this is the student learning team. The student learning team is probably the team that's most like the old site team, the old building leadership team. So we do things around professional development planning and curriculum planning. Our goals on the student learning team are aligned with the district goals. That's that coherent curriculum. You've heard Jessica talk about that, the Princeton paradigm. We have a literacy goal, and we have our QComp goals around math and reading. And you can read all those words in there. But what did we do around that? We are kind of proud of our instructional leadership at the high school, our framework for visiting classrooms and how we give feedback to teachers has been a model for the district, and Jessica has helped us move that forward. So you can see our more our goals from our student learning group are more outlined on this slide. I want to mention, you'll hear this now this year, 4 habits of mind. We've been working for several years to implement the reading and language arts standards throughout all content areas. And we have steps in the plan that we did this year as well, but we are shifting to 4 habits of mind, which means instead of taking standard by standard, we're focusing on reading more complex text, supporting arguments with evidence, resolving conflict with source documents, solving complex problems. This is what students will be doing in relation to text. Those 4 habits of mind come from research, and they encompass the standards in a different way. So we started that work last year, and Ben, you can shift to the next slide. We started that last year, and you'll continue to hear about the 4 habits of mind. The MTSS team, Tiered Systems of Report was led by Larissa Bell and Sarah Dirk. This team was significant work last year to sort of reboot. We abandoned all previous structure and recreated it from scratch. This year, one of the odd things that happens with something like hybrid learning, we actually are given a different way to use our time for interventions, similar to what Charlie talked about, and I'll talk about it later here. So our MTSS team, all of a sudden, has some time available in a different way, and we are actually going to meet our goals more easily without having to jump through as many logistics. So the student learning team, or excuse me, the MTSS team met Wednesdays. They talked about students, what students are having difficulty, what steps do we need to take, and that team is already up and running this school year. It's a significant part of the work that we'll be doing. And Ben, you can move to the next one. This is a lot of words, but again, I didn't want to take away their words that they were putting on this board report for you. It really makes a lot of sense. We were asked, previous to this situation we're in, to really report on the previous year and those goals, and that's what they were working on. So when you have perhaps, more time, you can read through more of their words, but I'm giving you the highlights of what those teams are working on. The multi-tiered systems of report MTSS team is definitely a high-tech team, and they rely a great deal on structures. And the next team, the final big rock, is the climate and culture team. Our PBIS, Positive Behavior Interventions and Support team, last year really was part of climate and culture. We combined them, we work together. Right now, the PBIS team, which is in a developmental cohort, we're on our second year in that cohort. The PBIS team, that work now, they will split a little bit from the full team, and as they will need to do more work now as PBIS, but they're underneath that climate and culture umbrella. I think the best way is to show you the pictures. The leaders of this team of climate and culture were Katie Lehman, Colby was the admin liaison, and Amy Smith and Brett Triplett were the PBIS leaders. So some of the things they did, food is not to be scoffed at. And they put together a couple of staff breakfasts, different things around just being a community in a school. We sent postcards to our students on the left. You can see that, Own Your Own Stripes postcards. We did the activity where we pull labels of students. We sent to all those students. We continued our work with the Princeton 5. We call it that, the employee values. That's from a few years ago now. And that will sort of start to morph. Those Princeton 5 have become an important part of our school. That comes from living and learning connections with our community business people. You've seen me talk about that Princeton 5 poster, I think for 3 years now. And it really is an embedded part of the curriculum. I would like to shout out to the teachers who have made it embedded. We did something really well. Instead of the student learning team saying, and here's what you will do on every first Monday, you have to have a lesson with the Princeton 5, we just kept talking about it, giving ideas, giving time to teachers to talk to each other about how can you bring those Princeton 5 skills into the classroom. And it's an embedded part, a strong part of our culture. And the district has supported us in that work. And right now, you're going to start to see this tool. ROAR is our new acronym from the PBIS team. You have seen FACT from the high school, and now it will be ROAR. So that PBIS team is rolling this out now. That is the cover of our handbook this year. Those are the posters that we're working on having made. We're training staff. You train staff first, and then you start training students. So all teachers have a matrix for ROAR in their classroom. So if you are ever back in the building, we will show you some of those. This piece is the Habits of a Tiger. I mentioned that the Princeton 5 are kind of shifting. We started the Habits of a Tiger work last year, and that along with the 4 habits of mind are where we're sort of focusing now. We're not dropping the Princeton 5, but they're more embedded in this fuller, more in-depth list of habits of a tiger, of what do we want from a student, what skills do they need, and what attributes are desirable in our students. So don't go forward yet, Ben, if you'll just let me pause on this slide. So that was the plan for last year. Those are some of the big rocks. We also had our redesign work. I'll talk about that at the end. Things were going along very well for us in the end of February. We had started to check off, even some of our goals were met on our plan. We had strong structures being built. Our teams were working very, very well. We had a schedule process that was better, easier than any ever online was growing. And then, Ben, you can go to the next slide. So then we sort of hit that COVID. And Ben, I have some drama coming up. So if you'll click and let me talk about each of these. On Sunday, March 8th, it was a nice day. And you can proceed, and you'll see that I have a timeline here. On Monday at 4 o'clock, the chief stopped in, happened to catch Colby and me. We had not heard of COVID. By Tuesday after school, that was the chatter. It was drowning out everything else. On Wednesday, the league started adjusting tournament play. That was the talk on Wednesday. On Thursday, we canceled the All-City Choir concert as we departed for Duluth. On Friday, we woke up, we were heading to the boys basketball state tournament, and the tournament was canceled. On Saturday, the chatter was at a frenzy, and on Sunday, we met with you. And by Tuesday, we were on our last day of school with our students in the building. So we all lived that together, and we won't ever be able to unremember any of that. It really was quite an experience, and I just thought it was worth remembering how that hit us and when it did. So, well then, if you want to go to the next slide. So as we see over here, well, now we go. Emergency distance learning, which is what we're calling it now, started on March 30th, and you can see what happened during that. Some of these photos here tell the story better than the words do. Kip was a strong student leader last year. You can see the Kip head in the bleachers. He became a fixture in some of my Zooms or my video recordings that I put out. Students were very connected with us, as even though we were not physically with them. The Lights On for Princeton, that's an aerial view. Our community members help us put those on. The turnout for that was appropriate and moving. We had paras on the front line doing what we called the Orange Plan at the time. Our food service, well, they're like old pros at this now. We had cap and gown distribution. I mean, everything was sort of unbelievable of what we had to put together, but we did it very, very well. And if you want to go to the next, as you remember, you know, graduation really was our finest hour. It was as on schedule. It was the same day as originally planned. And I can't even really speak about the banners and how the students appreciated that. Those banners that was completely a community effort changed it changed our community. It changed how our students felt a part of the community. It was a beautiful event, and thank you for supporting that event and for being a part of it, which kind of brings us to this year. So what's happening with the hybrid plan at the high school? We have 3 groups now. We kind of we're calling it A, B, and C group. So if you're in hybrid, you're in an A group or a B. We're starting to refer to the full-time distance learners as Group C. The reason for that change, that language is a change, Group C is a change last week. That's how I have to identify that student in Skyward in order to get these complicated schedules to, run. And then we have full-time online students as well. So we really have 4 groups of students. And remember, we also have our PSEO students. And, so we have a lot of different types of students in different types of programs. Group A is on campus Monday and Tuesday. Group B is on campus Thursday, Friday. And Group C is not on campus. They're virtually learning all the time. And all of the groups are distance learning on Wednesdays, similar to what's happening at the middle school. On Monday and Tuesday, we run, I think I have this backwards. On Monday and Tuesday, we run periods 1, 2, 3. On Tuesday, 4, 5, 6. On Wednesday, it's advisory for everybody at 9 o'clock. That's the only sort of traditional class period that you have on Wednesday. And I'll talk about how Wednesday works in a minute. Thursday, Friday is periods 1, 2, 3 on Thursday, 4, 5, 6 on Friday. Now, just an aside here, this is a continual issue that I have had. It's not that I don't know what our schedule is. It's not that I haven't written it 100 times, but I get so much information in my head that I'm mixing that up. So I have, if you look in that top left corner, that's the new Princeton newsletter from the principal. I started a newsletter last spring during distance learning, and I sent it out every Friday, and I'm continuing that now, and it's helpful. But I have that, I have to have that proofread because I have a tendency to mix up these little tiny details. So if you ever see that, let me know. I see one right here. Our day is 9 a.m. to 3:15. I'm meeting with Charlie and Michelle tomorrow, if we can. We're still adjusting those bus times. We're still working that out. That first day when 18 buses drove up here to the high school in Precision, it was a sight to see, and I commend Palmer Bus for what they've done as well. So picking up the bus loading here is very, very different at the high school than anything we've experienced. We have 4 lunch shifts, and we have 18 buses at the end of the day, social distancing and masks. Those are some pretty big changes. Our class periods are just about 2 hours long, but so you only have 3 classes a day. So a class period is twice as long as usual. So we're trying to get what you need to get done for that class, that for those 2 days in that 2-hour block. We did have a welcome event for 9th graders instead of our traditional open house. We will never go back to what we did before. The welcome event was excellent and very safe and had tremendous positive feedback from staff, students, and counselors. Counselors put that event together. We had our Chromebook pickup on the same day for our full-time distance learners, and then there were other times they could come, and we are working towards getting our materials pickup started this week for our full-time distance learners. And I have another slide. I don't know that this is of great interest. I think I've always put it in. You can read what the numbers are. It's just kind of our enrollment numbers right now. I like to, it's a way for me to keep those in my forefront as well. So you can go to the next slide, Ben. This I think will be of interest to you. The full-time online enrollment right now. So this is online, not the same as distance learning. Online means you are not connecting to that classroom teacher. You're not at the same pace as a seat-based class. You're fully online through a separate program where we've purchased Edmentum as the delivery of that curriculum, although we are developing our own courses through Schoology. So in grade 9, you can see that we have 2% of our students, or 6 students, that are full-time online students. And you can read the numbers there. We have full-time distance learners as well. So for example, in grade 10, you can see that's the largest number of full-time distance learners. This is that group C student that does not come to campus. That grade level has 24%. So we're at about 29% total population of our students, either full-time online or full-time distance learning. The full-time distance learning, which these are numbers today, or last updated, I suppose last Friday, it's the 20% is actually lower than we were predicting a while back. And I meet with area principals, the Mississippi 8 principals. We're about the same as our neighboring hybrid high schools. So this is a very shared experience. In fact, we did not have time to meet as area principals as over the summer. It just was not possible. You just don't have the time to do that. And yet we're all coming up with extremely similar hybrid plans. So I find that interesting, maybe not super important, but I find it interesting. We can go to the next slide. This is a photo from last night. I want to look at my notes to make sure if there's anything else I've missed. So what matters most is that these students are back. They're wearing their masks. They're social distancing as best they can. We're working on the social distancing. That's actually proving to be more difficult than wearing the mask, as you maybe experience yourself. We're still developing our learning lab time and our Tiger Academy. Those will be support times on Wednesdays for students. Some of that is optional, some of that will be assigned. We're developing our curriculum through Schoology for all of our courses. I cannot express how much I admire our whole teaching staff. We were moving toward the use of Schoology away from Google Classroom, and we accelerated that move. If we were going to move there anyway, our decision this summer was we're going to do that for this in preparation for hybrid. That has been a lot of work for our students. I have some other notes here, and I think that I want to make a couple of thanks, and then I will conclude. I would like to, as always, thank our teacher leadership team, Larissa Bell, Sarah Dirk, Jade Joseph, Amy Smith, and Brett Triplett. They are the Big Rock team teacher leaders, and my administrative team here is Emery Colby, Darren Labs, and Sarah Dirk is our dean, and these are outstanding people. I want to thank you very much for this time and your interest in what's really happening at the school. Do you have any questions for me?
All right, let's start in our physical room. Does anyone have a question for Barb?
Are the PSEO numbers about the same, or did that change?
Did you hear that, Barb?
No.
The question was, are the PSEO numbers about the same, or are they different?
Right now we have 22 full-time PSEO. I believe that's about 2 less, so it's about the same.
Well, I know that there was a big fear across the state that PSEO numbers would skyrocket this year. Anyone else in the physical room? How about anyone in Zoom land?
Jim has a question.
Okay, Jim, can you go ahead and unmute yourself, please? I think you're on your phone. Jimmy?
Yeah, there we are.
Okay.
Are the online learners from different districts?
We have some. I can pull that number. I think we have 3 of our students that went to another district for online. I don't have that breakout right now, Jim. Most of them are our own, as we expected as we moved to this hybrid. Most are our own. I can get that number though.
That's
Jim,
all right. Yeah.
Jim,
Thank
at our next board work session, we will have Ann Cameron here to speak on Princeton Online, and she'll be able to share a breakdown of the number enrolled in Princeton Online and the students that are from the Princeton districts and the students that are from outside of our district.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I think it's important that I recognize Barb and her leadership. Like, you know, I think Barb's got a ton of strengths, and I think one of the strengths that has really been evident from last spring and now into this fall is she thrives when we're in crisis. Like when we're in difficult, challenging times, she really steps up and she mobilizes the team, comes up with some incredible plans, and just her organization and structure and working through this has been commendable. And I thought you did a great job tonight, Barb.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Barb.
Thanks, Jim. We miss you.
I miss you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you, Barb.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's move on to the school board goals for 2020, 2021. These goals are the goals that we talked about, I don't know, 2 months ago maybe. And they had typed them up and put them on this little document here. Does anyone want to change anything that we have on this document? Does it look okay to everyone?
Yeah, I think we actually had the board approve these goals. I wanted to mostly put these goals on here. You gotta find it now. Just in reference to the next slide, the next thing that we're gonna talk about, because you're gonna notice on here, one of our goals was to carry out an annual assessment, right? So we have been in the works of lining up MSBA for when that assessment will be for this year. So that goal is in the works. Then set goals for the school board annually. And that's what we're doing, or that's what you see here. We set our first, and these are our goals that the board had went ahead and approved. And then this next piece that we're going to share with you is this one here: use written protocols for board interactions. And that's the one that we're going to spend a little bit of time on after this. And then I do want you to know that we have been in preliminary discussions on how to align the superintendent evaluation with agreed upon goals that are aligned with our continuous improvement plan. And also you're going to notice on the 5th goal, and that's referenced in our protocols, there's a piece in there about a mentor program. So I think the board should feel good that we're having some progress on these goals, and we'll continue to bring them forward to review. Hey, can you guys in Zoom land see the screen? Am I sharing my screen with you?
Yeah, we can see it. Yep.
Yeah, we can see it.
The board goals? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And now this next one, maybe Eric and Deb helped with creating some of these board protocols. Maybe you two would like to just speak to this, and I can fill in any gaps.
Well, a while back, we had sent an email after we set our school board goals and asking for people's input on what they thought some written protocols should be. And these are just some of the things that some of you people have emailed back and we've kind of come up with. We just kind of threw some of this stuff together. It's still kind of a working document. If anyone thinks that we should change something or add something, we can definitely work on that. We're
You know, one of
looking
the,
for everyone's input, right?
yeah, this is just a draft. I think it's
Yeah.
mostly putting it in front of you. You know, maybe we can discuss formally approving this at a future meeting, but given this is a work session, this is more of a sharing with you. But one of the pieces that we talked about is, you know, how do we respond to an all board email? You know, what's our protocol so that they're responding to individually sent emails. We have something there about new board member mentorship, board member questions and concerns, adding to the agenda. You know, some things about our committees. We tried to link in some of the policies related to some of this too. Again, it's just a working document, trying to move toward the, you know, meeting the goals that the board had set. And again, we set the goals based upon our annual board evaluation and self-survey that we did. So, you know, I think strong work from the board here.
Does anyone have any input or anything they'd like to add to any of this?
Yeah, I'd like to just speak to the responding to individual sent emails. I noticed on the above, you mentioned that, you know, that you copy everybody on the response. I don't know. I just think it'd be beneficial if there is any kind of response. It'd be nice to have a copy. If it goes to, you know, to an individual, it's just good to copy the board and even Ben for that matter, I think.
Okay.
That's just kind of,
Comes out from either the board chair or the soup, I'd like a copy. Anyone else aware that sometimes when we get the email complaint or something to the board, but they never copied the soup? So we need to forward that stuff to the soup. A lot of times they just hit the board thing and it never gets to them. So he isn't caught off guard.
Well, as far as I know, and of course I might not be aware of everything, but I feel like our board has been really good at, if you've gotten something, letting me know, if from an individual or if it's been a group email. I feel like at least one of you will forward it on to me and then I can help with that. But I think in the past, we've always kind of not exactly had it written how we were gonna respond. And I think that for every concern that we get, it warrants a response, right? We don't want to open ourselves up to not be getting back to people, but what's our process? And then we did indicate that we would blind copy all the board on that response.
I think that's an important step too, because after I read them, I know, like, has anything been done, or did it get to you, or how was it answered? So I think that's an important step, but I think this is really good. I think you guys have done a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a starting point. I think that we can add to it, you know, as we go.
It's a work in progress.
All right. Well, that's good input, Chad. I didn't really think of that part of it, I guess, on individual emails.
yeah, I'd like to echo Sue. I like what you guys did. It looks good. Nice work.
I think is this the last thing on information?
No.
Oh,
we got two more.
there's, okay. I guess it doesn't, it kind of fits here and it kind of doesn't, because it talks to the board goals, and the board goals does reflect our continuous improvement plan. But I hope, and I'm just gonna state this, so I'm extremely intentional about this. You know, one of our goals when we created a continuous improvement plan was to get everybody in the district, in this great big district of a lot of people, a lot of different sites, to have some consistency and continuity in our planning, right? And as you saw from the middle school and the high school, you saw consistency and continuity in following and working towards our district continuous improvement plan, and some continuity and consistency in the game, them following through with the game plan. And you also saw another one of our goals was to create a process on how we govern ourselves, where we are very strategic on our participatory leadership teams to center around our focused game plan and providing lots of input and feedback from teachers to really have some shared decision making in terms of how we move our work forward. So just want to point that out because I think that's something that we should be really proud of. It's certainly something that when I was learning the lay of the land, talking to lots of people when I was first here, my first year here, I heard a lot of frustration about some of that, about, we have a lot of good things going, but it was hard to see how it was all connected. And I think that, and that wasn't me telling those two great principals to do that, right? That's just how we do business now. And I won't tell the intermediate or the primary or anyone else how to do it. And I'm pretty confident you're going to see something pretty similar. And that all stems from the board created and approved continuous improvement plan, starting with our mission. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? All right. We can move on to the COVID-19 budget updates. CARES Fund budget allocation. Michelle?
Yeah, late this afternoon, we had our first CARES Fund all put together, and as we were starting the meeting, Andrea was working on putting this in for approval at the state. Has to be approved by October 1, and it means fully funded approved. Otherwise, we do not receive the money. So we wanted to be a couple weeks ahead of that deadline, and so we have made that deadline. This is similar. It's in a different format than what I've showed you before. We went through and as much as possible, anything that we actually knew costs is on the list. There are some areas that we have estimates in yet, and we still may be doing some juggling, moving maybe some technology into GEARS funds if we find that we have some things that we have missed, because they are giving us some leeway on moving between the categories should we need to. So, we've got the 2 additional cleaners that we're working on hiring. We have the service providers outsourced, that's Meridian, helping with pandemic planning. She helped with all of the signage and some of the things that we needed related to health and safety. The second tier busing, this actually goes through January, we've calculated, because I figured we could have them send us the bill in December for January so we could get it on this. There's a big amount of money there for supplies and equipment for disinfecting and personal protective equipment, which includes masks, gloves. Some of our teachers will have to wear gowns because of the type of students that they have. So there's a whole list of that stuff, and includes whatever we need in our nurses' offices. We got some technology supplies. We have phone system upgrade that we're working on in order to, if I'm at home or a teacher's at home and needs to call a parent, they can actually do it from your work phone is what shows up on the other end, which would be very nice when we get it up and running. Class size reduction, this is basically 7 payrolls. We're estimating that 7 payrolls is going to be about 140,000. The rest of that class size reduction, we are probably going to use the ESSER funds to create that buffer there. We had some para support, additional health and classroom para support throughout the district that we need for either providing supervision for lunch. We've actually put a health para in the family center here so we could open Nicole up to do all of the things that are needed for the COVID-19 tracking pieces that we have never had to do before. We put in here, we've got some training and planning time. Those are also the training and planning time, as you see added up, we're up to $69,000. and I see there's still some coming in. So it's been a big lift for our district to get us up and running in a whole new fashion. Additional sub-support for COVID-19 leave. At any point in time, we can have teachers, staff go out regarding COVID leave. We may have no warning. So we actually have two subs per building on call that would also be able to do our family center and student services buildings if they needed to. We are putting this in here. We are hoping that they approve it. It is one thing that they might say is in our current budget. So we were very careful on how we worded that so that we hopefully get that funded. We got a request today actually for safety equipment for student use at the high school. Typically that's shared. Now each student has to have their own. So that was a small thing, but we put that on right away. And then of course, software support for the virtual classrooms and technology supplies to support virtual classrooms is also another big piece of that. And we can shift some of that to gears should we need to. But we want to use up the CARES funds first because they are done as of December 30th. We also are very cognitive that we believe next year that we will still need to have some kind of time of the CARES. We're on there tonight. This is similar. We will need to have that approval as a grant because that is how it functions. And then the team that's working on this is Jessica, Andrea, and Mary Eamon from our office and myself. It's not just one person. And of course, Jake is getting questions like every 5 minutes. So a lot of team members trying to put together this in a short period of time because they didn't give us a whole lot of warning.
Well, it looks really good. I'm glad that we're able to use as much of the money as we possibly can. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I just had a quick question on the software support for the virtual classrooms. How many platforms is that? Is that like, you know, like Zoom and Google? And I mean, how many different platforms does that include? I was just curious.
Zoom, Seesaw, Schoology was a big cost of that, and Zoom. And
Edmentum.
No,
Schoology is probably the biggest. I think that maybe just let's try and remember tomorrow at our next board work session. I think we should have a mini little presentation to the board on what Schoology is because you're gonna hear us talk about it a lot. You need to know what it is. So.
Those 4 different platforms, is that correct? Just so I understand it correctly.
That's the big ones off the top of my head.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the levy.
Levy, okay, I as we started the meeting, we got an email from MDE that there was a levy update. So I did pull that up quick. Just so you know, our data is already old. It's now at like 2.24%, and this one is at 1.54%. They've had some issues with getting some of the formulas to work the way that they need to. So hopefully, I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. But just so you're aware that it did go up a little bit. The levy this year is pretty boring. There are no changes for once in the law. So all of our categories other than what happens with cleanup and the whole levy process itself and ADM catch up from prior years. We are pretty similar to the prior year. Total general education levy went from 3.9 to just over 4 million. The community ed levy probably had the biggest jump because of the size of that category. Part of that has to do with school age care. That is actually almost 3 years behind catch up for expenses. So that's for prior years, and that will help offset some of that fund balance in community education in the future. General education debt, our debt area actually went down slightly, and so pretty boring.
Right.
Which is good. It's very nice not to have major changes in a year when we have a lot of major changes. So
So
that
are we able to approve this if something changed tonight?
we are approving, we're asking you to approve the maximum tonight under the action area. We do that every September maximum, and that is to, that's so that when the state has an error, that it just automatically updates. We approved the full levy in December with actual amounts, and at that time, should anything, at that point, if the board would choose to levy less, you can do it at that point. But I would, at this point, I would not recommend doing a hard number because you're really locked in then.
Okay. All right, is there any questions on the levy? All right, let's move on to the action. Thank you, Michelle. Let's move on to truth and taxation. Do we have a motion to set the truth and taxation meeting report for December 15th, 2020 at 6 p.m. at the work session for the school board meeting?
So,
Second. Okay.
Motion by Deb, seconded by Sue. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll vote by roll call, starting with Eric Stramberg. Yes? Jim?
Gotta unmute yourself.
still can't hear you, Jim.
There. Yes.
All right, thank you. Howard?
Yes.
Eric Minks?
Yes.
Chad?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Do we have a motion to accept the levy resolution as presented?
So moved.
Motion made by Howard. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jim. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll vote by roll call, starting with Jim.
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Eric Minks?
Yes.
Chad?
Yes.
Thank you, Deb.
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Eric Stramberg, yes. All right, second reading of policies. We have a motion to accept the second reading of policies as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Eric Minks. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Deb. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call, starting with Howard.
Yes.
Eric Minks?
Yes.
Chad?
Yes.
Deb? Jim? Jim?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Motion carries. There's no additions to the agenda. We all know our future meetings. Do we have a motion to close the school board meeting to discuss negotiation strategies?
So moved.
Motion made by Jim. Do we have a second? Second made by Sue. Any discussion? Vote by roll call, starting with Eric Minks.
Yes.
Chad?
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Eric Stramberg, yes. Jim,
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
All right, meeting is now closed.